Warning, this video will contain spoilers for all of Kill La Kill. Also, warning, Keg Standard has a filthy fucking mouth, so if you get offended easily, this video will probably offend you. In the description for this video, you will find a heavily annotated guide to navigating the video. If you click on the annotations that have tildes next to them, you'll be taken to all the review parts of the video. If you click the ones that have asterisks, you'll be taken to the analytical parts of the video. And if you click the ones with plus signs, you'll be taken to the ones that talk about the show's history. Please enjoy. Holy shit, I am here with Keg Standard of Two Best Brothers Bitch About Ponies. Say
Represent! Hello, Represent Keg Standard, motherfucker. Two Best Bronies, subscribe, like, comment, everything you got.
If you're into that kind of thing. This video is going to be on the anime channel, so not everyone necessarily is a pony fan, but they all will be because I haven't advertised this channel. Anyway, we are here to talk about Kill La Kill again because we recorded this like hour-and-a-half long podcast about this show right after we had both finished watching it. So like the energy was high, we knew everything about it. And then my computer completely died. Hard drive failure. Nothing was recovered. And that Kill La Kill podcast is like what did it in, because every time I tried to like edit it, it would just die. Like the whole computer would die. Everything would fall apart. It was bullshit. But anyway,
it was a work of art. But now you have to deal with this.
Right. That's in the past, and now we've got the new Kill La Kill cast where we aren't as hype and we don't remember everything. Well, at least I don't. So I don't know about you.
I'll do my best.
So trying to remember topics that we talked about last time, I believe what we started with was first impressions of Kill La Kill. What were your first thoughts about it?
Right. Okay. Let me see. I know I've told people this before. Okay. I think what I usually say to people is when I first started Kill La Kill, from episode 1, it was obvious to me, like, the big twist that happens halfway through the series of Ryuko and Satsuki teaming up, and Satsuki,
right?
You know, that was obvious to me
as well.
Right. Okay. So because
of that,
which
made it odd to me that it didn't happen sooner. I think we both agree on that.
Definitely.
It really felt like, okay, Satsuki is the other main character.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess just the fact that she seemed like the more interesting character made it seem like she was definitely going to join sides with her.
Like, what's Ryuko got? She's got that fucking, like, Super Saiyan shit where she's just the strongest, and that's supposed to make us more interested in her as a character. That's it doesn't work that way, guys.
Look, I don't know. I've actually been lately, I like the sort of old school, like, this character is the most badass because they're the most badass.
Yeah.
And I think it can work. It's not going to give you a character who's, like, interesting and relatable, but it is going to give you a character that you can root for if you're just watching an action show. You know?
That's true. That's true.
Like, if you watch a great example of this is a currently airing show called Black Bullet, and the show, like, the characters don't really have any personality per se. It's just that the way the show presents them makes them seem badass. It makes the situation seem badass. So I don't really care about the main character, like, in a like emotional sense, but I can root for him to win because he's cool, you know? Yeah. And that's how I feel about Ryuko. Like, and I mean, she's, first of all, great character design. I think Ryuko's design alone kind of sold this show. I remember seeing...
that's true. That's true. That was 90% of the marketing campaign was her ass.
Way before this show aired, I remember seeing her. There's a YouTuber called Triple Q who does a ton of, or Triple Q, does a ton of awesome, like, mashup songs. Like, that's his whole channel is weird-ass mashups. And he had Ryuko as his avatar, like, a year ago. And I had no idea what it was. I was like, what the fuck is this thing? But he had been following, Trigger and their PR and stuff like that, and he knew about it. So, fantastic design, very simple, easy character to get behind, but it's unmistakable, like, once you start getting into Satsuki, that she is the more interesting character.
Shallow is how I would describe Ryuko. As opposed to Satsuki, who's, I mean, there's at least a little bit more to delve into there.
Definitely. And I'll be the first person to say that a character doesn't have to be deep to be good, but if you're putting a shallow character next to a deep character, it's going to be recognizable.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else about your first impressions?
It was, well, basically the only other thing is just like after episode 16 when I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, and not to say there weren't moments in those first 16 episodes that I loved, like all of episode 5, the whole thing where they go to Osaka was great, but after that point, like my enjoyment of the show shot up so much more just because I didn't like everything. I knew the things I were seeing then weren't fucking all going to be thrown away. Yeah, it had a plot now. Exactly. It's just episode 1 through 16 was just about getting to the point where they teamed up, and then the real shit could happen. And that stuff was great. It just, like, to the random person, like, watching the show, is it worth their time to sit through 8 hours to get to that payoff? They have to decide for themselves. I don't know.
Right. I definitely think this is a show that if you watch the first episode and you're completely turned off, this show is not for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that sense of humor and that kind of manic energy is never going to go away. Yes, the show will have more of a plot eventually, but if you just outright don't like episode 1, then stop while you're ahead.
Though frankly, episode 1 is great. So really, it's more likely that you'd be like entranced by episode 1 like I was, and then kind of be let down.
You have like Brony Curious, who watched episode 1 and he completely was like, "This seems like
what a
I
faggot."
Don't get it. Yeah, he didn't like it at all. He was just like, he had a video out on it actually, but it got taken down like within a day, and it had like a huge mark against his channel because Sony owned it apparently. And he got like a full strike against his account.
And that's why he hates Kill la Kill.
No, I mean he didn't really enjoy it in the first episode, and everyone was hyping it up. But he's totally a story guy; like he doesn't care about style at all.
Well, I see where he's coming from anyway.
That's what I mean when I say that if you watch the first episode and you don't like it at all, then just stop, because it's never gonna. It's never gonna be like the super deep, intricate storyline.
As deep as the love story between Mako and Gamagori blooms throughout the series, it's just not enough.
Right. There is a little bit of subtext to the show. There's definitely theming, which we will definitely get into. Like, theming is a big thing in this show, but I wouldn't say that it makes any bold statements.
It's, it reminds me really of the Bioshock series, like how Bioshock uses objectivism as like a template for their game that's just a framing device, but doesn't really have anything that valuable to say about it.
Right. I think that's both in... Well, I won't say that. I will say that in video games, that's one of the problems with the medium, is that Bioshock is about as far as we've come with theming. There's not a lot of games that are... well, I won't say it's as far as we've come, but there's not a lot of games that actually say things, Whereas they use themes, but they don't comment on themes or have messages. Kill la Kill falls in with that kind of level, that video gamey... We have themes, but none of it really matters. None of it's that applicable to everyday life.
Yeah, totally.
Or relatable. My first impressions of this show, and it's interesting because both of us like this show. I mean, I think we both probably like it about the same amount. I give it an 8 out of 10. Yourself, what would you say?
I give it a... I'd give it 1 Mako out of a Chaco. Something like that.
In any case, it's a very solid show.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us considers it like the best ever or anything like that.
Yeah,
but
no. That would be Gurren Lagann.
Right, I know, and that was part of your first impression of the show as well. Was that?
Oh, right, yeah. I expected it to be Gurren Lagann, and it wasn't, and that was really my mistake. But
But I'm glad you recognize it as your own mistake.
Certainly.
And it's easier to look back on it now that it's like been a while. Because when you first watched the show, I remember you were like really adamantly like, this is bothering me that it's not. But now that you look back on it, it doesn't matter anymore.
It's true. Like the ending, I expected certain things that I didn't get. And now I'm able to put a little distance and appreciate it a little bit more. Right. Just because I'm not fresh off the heels of fucking seeing the thing, so.
Yeah. And, fuck, what was I about to say? Right. But the interesting difference that we both like the show, but you like everything after episode 16 more, and I kind of liked the stuff early in the show more, but I wouldn't say like exponentially so.
Okay.
I would just say that for me, like the most fun I remember having in the show, other than I'll say this, episode 16 is probably the most exciting episode.
That's the one where they
shit goes down, shit really hits the fan.
That's where Satsuki betrays Ragyou, right?
Yeah, and
incredible episode, incredible
and shit, and it was exciting to watch and to see the big moments that you knew were gonna come, but then they are satisfying.
Was that also the episode where Ragyou fucks Satsuki Because that was
the one right before it. Both of those are great episodes.
Oh my
15
God.
and 16 were intense.
That right there is the best. Those two, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Right. The sort of pseudo rape scene was definitely like that was the moment when the show took off, where it was like,
I know, right?
Shit just got really real, because it was so disturbing, and the music was fucking perfect. You know,
it was
insane. Like that just right mix of like
creepy,
it's
but
like sexy, and you know it shouldn't be. That's kind of I think that's one of the themes of this show, which we might as well just dive right into this particular theme, because nudity plays a huge role in this show.
No doubt.
The act of nakedness and the act of shame. And this show has a lot to say. If there is one thing that it does have to say about, it's shame and how you shouldn't have it. This show does not believe in shame. And it sort of laughs at the viewer for finding all of this stuff sexy in a way. Where, like, because there's a lot of...
It does. It rides the line between that and pandering.
I think, I think this show is
itself.
Deliberately shameless. I think it pushes its fan service and stuff in your face, but at the same time, the way the fan service is handled, it's not like the sort of, like, okay, let's say we watch a fan service show where, like, a guy falls on, like, the girl's boobs, and then it shows, like, the bordering shot and all that. And it's sort of like the characters are... like shy about it, or it's something like something naughty is happening, and that's supposed to make you feel like, you know, this like kind of creepy perverse feeling. Kill la Kill is not like that. It never feels naughty or like perverse. It just feels like it's happening.
You know, Satsuki sums up that pretty eloquently in episode 3,
right?
Where you know, Ryuko's still dealing with her nudity and how she's all embarrassed about it, and Satsuki's just like, oh, you are such a fucking faggot. Don't you get it that by being naked, this is the most powerful form?
Right.
You just got to accept that shit.
Why would I be ashamed of unlocking all this power?
And that's why Satsuki's the best character.
And that's probably, honestly, episode 3 might still to me be the actual best episode of the show, just for having the strongest thematic message, because the nudity thing is still important throughout, but it's not nearly to that extent. Where episode 3 had like a real statement to make about
I really liked that that whole bit at the beginning of Ryuko being embarrassed about being naked, and then it kind of gets explained away in episode 3 with her having this epiphany about, like, I don't need to be embarrassed.
Right.
It was a little fast for me, but I understand that, like, you know, this is a show. We gotta fucking move the thing along.
It's all about hauling ass. I mean, they say explicitly in one of the, like, end card, or no, it was at the start of an episode.
I think that was like for the very last episode. They say, like,
no, it's like episode 13. There was supposed to be a clip show.
Oh,
it does like a super fast clip show, and they're like, in a fast-paced show like Kill la Kill, even the clip shows go by.
Oh yeah, that was great. I love that.
Which was genius, because I thought it was really going to be a clip show, and then it wasn't. And it was
There's never an excuse for a clip show, but they made it work.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, like, in those early episodes, it shows a lot of Mako fan service, but I thought it was interesting, or not Mako, I meant Ryuko. It shows a lot of Ryuko fan service, and she's embarrassed about it in those early episodes. But I felt like the show, it was inviting us to have fun, but at the same time, it was making fun of it, because all the males are all idiots. They're all fucking idiots. They're all getting nosebleeds. They all get the shit beat out of them.
No male does a single worthwhile thing throughout the episode, except maybe Gamagori one time. I can't remember.
Right, but he's also a prudish, and he's supposed
a big
to be
fucking weirdo too.
You know, he's the one who won't look at the naked women, and he's the only, like, badass guy in the show. You know, whereas all the guys who like ogle tits and stuff are idiots who get the shit beat out of them. And then, you know, when Satsuki gives her whole speech, like, no, you can just own that nudity, you know, own it and make it, you know, don't be ashamed, just be like, this is who I am, fuck it, you know, I don't care what anybody else is gonna say, you know, if guys are gonna ogle me, then what do I care, and if they do, I'll beat their ass. If you know,
you're my waifu, Satsuki, I love you.
You know, and I don't know, because you know, if I feel like there's so many different perspectives on how people can take that message. Some people are going to say that it's problematic. You know, some people are going to say that it's empowering. And it's all going to come down to your personal perspective. I do not... The number one thing I don't want to do is to say that this message is all good or all bad. I think it's interesting. I definitely... I like that it's making a statement. I like that it's saying something. I'm not saying I wholeheartedly agree, but I think it's a great thematic message and an interesting point because the show itself, to me, episode 3 was a commentary on the actual nature of the show, where they were saying this show will nakedly be whatever the fuck it wants. We're going to have the fan service, we're going to have the action, we're going to have the pacing, we're going to have everything because fuck you, we do what we want and we're proud of it, So to me, it was like a powerful sort of message for the show to carry and for the characters too.
Yeah, no, it was great. Trigger did good stuff that episode. That was definitely one of the best.
Right. And so my first impressions of the show, because I watched those first 3 episodes kind of all at once, and I thought, wow, this is a really strong theme in episode 3, but then I thought there's no way this is going to carry through the whole show because it's 26 episodes. They've already said all there is to say about it, so where do they go from there? And then it kind of got into more silly episodes. But I actually really loved as well, like episode 4, where it's kind of just nonsense, but the comedic timing is so perfect throughout the whole episode. And I mentioned this in our original version of the podcast, where this show has an impeccable sense of using different kinds of animating styles in conjunction,
that was one of the best things about the show, and most unique, for sure.
Right, where there'd be, and a lot of it was to save budget, but in a way that would make it so
creatively, though. It was brilliant.
It's great to watch because you get this really high intensity action scene, and then you get these scenes where everyone's like cardboard cutouts, but it's funny. It doesn't make you go, oh, great, they used all the, because there's a lot of shows that do that. My brother's been watching Hunter x Hunter.
I read the manga, which is great. Haven't seen the anime, though.
Madhouse is doing a really great adaptation of Hunter x Hunter, but it's in the long what's it called?
When you go One Piece mode, it's never a good thing.
Right. It's in the middle of the ants arc where even in the manga,
which is a great arc, but it drags on super long.
And so watching the anime weekly, you're getting that another episode came out where nothing happened, But my brother was saying you'll go through a couple episodes where, and mind you, the show always looks like art-wise, it looks good. But there's episodes where everyone's just kind of standing around talking, but then you'll get that one episode where there's just incredibly intense animation moment. And it's like, okay, well, they saved up all the budget for that, but then everything else looked like shit. Kill La Kill says, we know everything else is going to look like shit, so why don't we make it hilarious, Why not have someone get punched and just like a paper cutout of them flies across the screen? And I always laughed at that every single time.
They admitted their budget constraints openly and nakedly, and they owned it.
Exactly. And that's...
a little bit of meta commentary there, maybe?
Even if I didn't care about the, because I should say, even though I don't really remember the storyline that well of this show, the characters and storyline did not have a lot of lasting impact.
Fiber threads, I don't fucking know. Whatever.
The whole animation style alone netted me so hard, and that's why I liked the early episodes a little bit more, because they did a lot more of that. There's a lot more of the gags, the explosive pacing, the constant shit happening, And then once the plot gets introduced, there's a few really great episodes. But then the slower episodes are just kind of well, now everyone has to be serious. So there's not people necessarily flying around as much. There's still plenty of it. It's still a funny show all the way through to the end. But,
for sure.
There's more of the, characters are standing around and they're not that well drawn moments towards the end of the show.
It's true. As things get more kind of serious, they get away from that a little bit, and it's got to be more actiony and stuff. So I can, if that's what you're into, which was definitely a great and unique thing about the show. The first half was definitely had more of that.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that both halves exist. I mean, I don't begrudge the second half for getting serious, because that's what made it interesting. I wouldn't have wanted to watch 26 straight episodes of episode 4. Because that was just too
it had
much.
To go somewhere. Right.
So I think it was cleverly put together all the way through. Sort of had a similar but less jarring arc compared to Gurren Lagann, where that show definitively went through the first 8 episodes are this, the next 8 episodes are this.
Oh, but that's the best part. That's one of my favorite things about the show. How it clearly
don't get me wrong,
that.
I love that it does that, but Kill La Kill does something similar.
Yeah.
But it's not as blatant.
It's it's much more subtle. Yeah, for sure.
And the first part goes on way the fuck longer.
It should have been it could have been 6 episodes, really. Maybe a little
Maybe
more.
It would have been better if it was like Gurren Lagann and had more of a big change in the middle just to mix it up,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just there was the only problem with those first episodes was just God, nothing. There just wasn't enough story. Everything else was great. There was lots of interesting stuff happening. I mean, not everything was great, but it just I personally just needed more story happening. And
to me, the evidence rather than more story, what the first 16 episodes really need is better character development. Because
that's true too.
If we were going to spend so long with these characters, they should have been more interesting.
The Big Four especially.
The Big Four are who I'm looking at. Gamagori, by the end of the show, I was satisfied with Gamagori's development and not at all with any of the others.
Yeah, like Nonon, I thought they were going to do something with her, but she's just a bitch at the beginning of the show, and she's a bitch at the end, and nothing happens in the middle. What are we? And she's like one of the main characters.
Right.
That's bullshit.
And the funny thing is that I actually like. In terms of aesthetic persona, which is a phrase I need to start bringing back, because I literally...
I always liked that.
Dude, I forgot about it completely.
Oh, really?
Like, that's the only reason I never use it anymore, is that I totally forgot about it until I was editing my last pony video. And then, like, I was trying to think of how to describe why I like Applejack and Fluttershy. Yeah, and so what I say in the video is, I want to marry them. And then I put on screen, remember the phrase aesthetic persona? Because I forgot. But in terms of that, Nonon, I saw the appeal of her immediately, especially because I really like her weird voice. Like me too. I just like that kind of sounds like an old lady almost, but in a young girl's body voice. But she didn't do anything. Yeah, she had
nothing. Absolutely.
She had this like whole backstory that seemed really interesting, and nothing came of it.
Yeah,
and they made it out like she had all these goals that she was going to achieve, and nothing came of it.
It was some bullshit.
And
pisses me off still.
The one that bothered me even more was Sanagayama, the samurai guy, because they build him up so much in like episode 7, I want to say, when she fights him the first time.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He tears his eyes out, and he beats the shit out of her, and it's like he had to leave because he was, like, going to kill her. And then they're building up that he's going to be this badass, at the end of the main four.
The payoff of that sure was entertaining.
And then Harime Nui shows up.
They use that to characterize Nui as being, like, even more powerful than this guy. But still, like, for him, that just shit on him as a character.
Right. And the problem... the Harime Nui scene, I got what they were doing while they were doing it. And it was a big troll. And fucking... I don't not expect that, because this guy, it's the director, he did Gurren Lagann, but he also did Panty and Stocking. Yeah, and that show was all about trolling the viewer. Like, actively. We're in, like, the last episode, like...
Panty just gets killed by fucking Stocking,
Stocking murders Panty and says, you have to chase me to another town, and then it'll be in Season 2, and there's never
Now go
a
forth,
2.
Chuck and Brief, and obtain the pieces of Panty. Yeah, it was fucking great.
So, the Harime Nui thing is totally that. It's obviously meant to fuck with you, because they build up so much. And it
succeeded, because I fucking hate that bitch.
Right, and everyone hates her. She's obnoxious as shit. She's voiced by Tamura Yukari, who's one of my least favorite voice actresses. Like, she always pisses me off. Probably best known for doing Nanoha. Bitch. Although the funny thing is, she's played some of my favorite characters, and I still hated her voice even playing those characters.
Like who?
If you ever watch Higurashi, she played Rika, the little girl,
the little blue-haired one.
Yeah, and I loved Rika, but her voice was obnoxious.
Oh god.
So I hate Tamura Yukari's voice, but
that was effective in helping me hate the character.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Good job, Trigger. Yeah.
But then what would have made that scene all worth it is if Sanagayama did something later. And other than the one fight he gets with the gold crab dude, he never gets to do something like to capital. They made him out like he was fucking unbelievably badass. Like he could see the whole universe.
He
with
could
his
see
eyes.
the entire fucking Earth, which was a sweet ass moment.
Right.
And then we get absolutely fucking nothing with that.
It was
at all.
Definitely a buzzkill kind of thing. Yeah. Like, there's other stuff in the show to like, but him as a character, because of that, became completely uninteresting and throwaway and unmemorable.
And the same thing basically happened to a lesser degree with the dog guy and Nonon. I mean, they all had that problem. And so kind of did Gamagori. Gamagori got a little bit more, so he wasn't as bad.
Gamagori got saved just by the fact that he had the thing with Mako.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that wasn't shoved in your face, but was just like a background thing, but it was really evident, just brought so much more out of him. And they set it up from, like, episode, 10, maybe.
Yeah, early on they interact.
Whenever it was that they took the car ride with him, like, then
that was
it's pretty well established.
Something, yeah, early on.
And then there's like Iori, who would be totally memorable if he got to do anything, you know.
Oh yeah, he was like the best character who you never ever fucking see in the whole show.
Honestly, I think what's cool about him is he managed to be like, okay, the difference between him and Inumata, which is the guy who was all about data. Inumata was totally archetypical. He was just, you know, he was the glasses guy who's obsessed with data, whatever. I thought he was totally boring. He never did anything. Could have been cut out of the show and I wouldn't have noticed. Iori, meanwhile, like, because you never see him, is fascinating.
I know, right?
And then he gets his big, cool moment in the end. And
that was the fucking best, man. When he gets his own 3-star uniform, like, the show recognizes him as awesome as I knew he was all along. That shit was the best payoff in the entire fucking show right there. That was it.
That was on par to me with Liron in Gurren Lagann, like, getting badass moments in the final episodes.
What did Liron do? I mean, he helped them find Nia.
Yeah. He's just generally a badass, like, the whole show.
No, he was great, he was pretty much instrumental for, like, every step of the way in that show, so I'm with you.
And the show, like, every minor character from Gurren Lagann who just seemed like some random expendable guy is still recognized as badass in the... And I think, in the movie...
They're all risking their lives together.
Doesn't Liron get his own mech in the movie?
No, Liron is with the crew in, like, the big, it's like the galactic-sized Daiguren that they make in the movie. He's in there with, like, Dayaka and, like, a bunch of other guys. Because I remember,
like, almost all of them got their own mechs at the end.
All, like, the normal fighters get their own, like, super mechs, but then, like, there's just a big Daiguren that, like, a lot of, like...
By the way, spoilers for the Gurren Lagann movie.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen it by now...
You probably don't understand what the fuck we're talking about.
You should just kill yourself, because it's the best thing in the world.
Do check out Gurren Lagann. I mean, if you like Kill la Kill,
you gotta see Gurren Lagann. Right? Yeah, no fucking
kidding.
It's
definitely up the same exact alley, and it's better.
I mean, for me, there's just no contest. Gurren Lagann is the best show of all time. It's better than everything. It's fucking good.
I don't support any of those claims, but it is better than Kill la Kill at
don't
being,
listen to him. I know my
pretty much the same thing. All right, so we've talked about the main four.
Yep. Other characters,
I'm going to let you loose to talk about Satsuki as much as you want.
Satsuki! Oh, yes, okay. Let's talk about her. Okay, first thing.
Wait, I want you to front to back themes, character, everything, looks, just anything you have to say about Satsuki at all.
Okay, first of all, I would totally fuck her. That's got to start at number one. Okay, moving on from that. Okay, everything about Satsuki is perfect. She's the best. First of all, the level of confidence she has, especially in episode 3, when she, you know, gets naked and does that, like, that was just... That's when I knew that she was a radical character who I would marry on the internet and be my waifu forever. And not, of course, I mean, I'm a huge believer in, well, maybe not huge, but I read a lot of Ayn Rand. I'm really into objectivism and that kind of shit.
He's a weird-ass objectivist guy.
I know.
Just for the record,
yeah.
I am not an objectivist, but I will let him explain everything.
Yes, himself. Please. Okay. So Satsuki's whole deal, right, is that she believes that the strong deserve the strong deserve to rule. If you have the strength to control the people who are below you, then that is your fitting place above them, and that is their fitting place below you. So that's it. I mean, that's the whole deal. She is the strongest, she is the smartest, she is the best. She controls you because you're a piece of shit who can't do anything right, and it's Sasuke's job to put you in line. And so, I mean, that right there sets up the whole hierarchical notion that she has. And, you know, her stuff is very, the stuff that she spouts at the beginning of the show, a lot of it's, like, totalitarian and, frankly, seems kind of, like, clashing information. Because, like, she basically spouts, like, socialist philosophy. Like, by talking about how, oh, geez, I'm losing track of it. Okay, right. So she talks about how, like, everyone needs to work together for the sake of, you know, of like her.
Everyone
like,
has their everyone has their exact place, and they need to fill that role. And society will work like a clock, and you're all gears, kind of thing.
Exactly. But then at the same time, we see in episodes like, well, the one where fucking Mako's family gets rich and moves up the hierarchy.
Which is one of the best episodes of the show.
It is one of the best episodes of the show. Not to mention Mako in that pink bra at the end is super fucking hot. But, at the end, I mean, we see through that episode that, like, there's room for growth. You have the ability to advance yourself in the society, and that's, you know, the fact that there's those two things seems a little bit, I don't know, like, it doesn't quite match, or maybe I'm just mixing up my philosophies. But in any case, I can't even describe it. I don't even know. I'm losing track of my thoughts here.
I think what you wanted to talk about was how Satsuki starts off seeming to be this sort of Randian leader, and then...
that's right, her transformation.
Right.
Right. No, keep going. I forget what I had said before.
She's sort of like... Well, around the midway point, it turns out that she kind of feels the opposite of how she's been saying.
That's right.
But it's weird, because it's like she used the methods of her mother... to try to beat her mother's ideals.
Oh, right. Let's explain that situation a little bit more. So, yeah, at the beginning of the series, we're led to believe that Satsuki is trying to, you know, just rule as a totalitarian over everyone, you know, in accordance with her mother's will, as the president of Revox that basically rules the world. But then, yeah, at episode 16, it's revealed that Satsuki wanted... this was all just a ploy to build up her forces in Honoji Academy, to make this big fucking coup to, you know, kill her mother and turn everybody into, like, I guess let everybody free? Right. But that right there is the main issue. So basically, she used her mother's methods to build Honoji Academy and make the forces necessary to defeat, you know, Ragyou, her mom.
Right.
And then, in the end, it seems though her philosophies were completely the opposite the whole time. So it's just a little bit weird that she has these two, you know, because like
very confusing, especially at the end when she sort of says to. There was a speech she gives to Ryuko in one of the last episodes, which both of us said we were almost uncomfortable with, just because she like blatantly tells Ryuko, "Oh, I guess you were right all along, just because you're the one who wins in the end."
But
you know,
that's the huge problem right there. The thing is, Satsuki was the only person who like. She put her life on the line. She did all this Machiavellian shit to try to get her way. And, I mean, she failed. She didn't quite do it. But she worked really goddamn hard. And she came closer than anybody else had. And it just so happened that Ryuko happened to be the chosen Saiyan godchild of destiny who could save everyone. But that's not important. What matters is that Satsuki had a plan. She was making that shit happen herself. And that's what was doing it. Her initial philosophy of... you know, totalitarianism was achieving results that the other one would never have done. So it's kind of contrary to the ideas of the show, the way it's executed.
It just feels weird, I guess, because of the fact that Ryuko doesn't really stand for anything.
Yeah,
and
like her friendship, I guess.
Well, her whole thing is more like chaos, I want to say. Like, her representation... Because the last episode makes it very clear that the writers were, like, trying to write something that's as like out there and nonsensical as possible. Like they literally, there's parts where she like breaks the fourth wall and says like, we've always been about nonsense, so why would we start making sense now?
Yeah,
she like actually says that. And
it's like a Gurren Lagann line.
Right. But she's like literally referencing the show itself.
Yeah,
like, our studio, our show has been about nonsense. Why would we start making sense now, you know? Which I thought was fine enough, but it's odd because Satsuki did have legitimate stuff, and then for her to like tell Ryuko, "Oh, you were right all along." Well, right about what? I mean, like, what was her philosophy, and how does it disprove yours necessarily? Because in the end, guess what? The strongest still won.
Exactly.
So
and that's exactly what Satsuki was saying at the beginning of the show. So she was right all along. She just wasn't the strongest.
It still ends up being more or less a deterministic setup, and I am a determinist, not an objectivist, but.
Yeah, look at this cool guy over here.
But I do believe that, you know, that everyone's going to fulfill exactly what was always going to happen. You know, you can't just like change it through willpower or whatever.
Oh, you are a faggot. But go on.
In any case,
I'll fight you.
I don't. I don't even want to discuss that just because.
I mean, we have to talk about like free will and stuff, and that's a discussion for another time.
Right. Well, if we were talking about a show that like actually did a good job dealing with these things, it would be interesting to talk about.
That's not really what this show's about.
Like when I first wanted to do a Kill La Kill podcast with you, it was before either of us had finished the show. And
right.
One of the biggest reasons was that the show had so much commentary on moral objectivism, and you were into that, and I was like, this will be great to discuss.
And we hoped that would go somewhere in the show.
Right, and then when it didn't, it was like, oh, the show has said nothing about this topic, so now we're just kind of going to point out that it's in the show, but it doesn't say anything about it, you know.
When will they make an objectivist anime?
I will link in the description as well to that one post that I linked you before.
Oh, that's a great post,
Right, where this guy really... If you want to see, like, hardcore-ass analysis of everything in this show, I'm going to link a post below that's very long, kind of... I wouldn't say it's difficult to read, but it's definitely heady.
It's not too bad.
It's on the level of, like, an academic article, and it's pretty interesting. I don't know how much of it I agree with, because he definitely is purposely going... like all the way to the extreme end of analyzing he's not concerned as much with authorial intent as he is with saying as much as possible about the show. Like, what's every avenue we could explore about this? So that's definitely a fascinating read, and I'd recommend checking it out if you want to get super deep in. We're more doing a review sort of impressions thing ourselves, but
frankly, I think our position is a little bit more appropriate given the subject matter at hand here.
I think both are definitely worth reading in tandem. I think
I
think ours is going to be more of, like, what we're saying is more of the emotional level and intellectual level response you're going to have to the show.
Yeah.
Whereas his is, all right, well, I'm having fun. Let's take it as far as we can, you know.
And which is fine.
It's valuable, but this
is a good exercise, if nothing else.
I think this is closer to what most people are going to react to this show.
Yeah.
You know. And I definitely think that this show... I don't want to call it overhyped, because I don't believe that.
I would call it overhyped.
Maybe a little, but I don't think
especially at the beginning.
I don't think it's undeserving of hype, though. Like,
well, I guess that depends.
This show's not as hyped as Gurren Lagann was at the time that it came out.
I watched it after it came out. So
it's close to that, but Gurren Lagann was a fucking huge deal when it came out.
As it should be, damn it.
And Kill La Kill definitely rode on the coattails of the fact that, like, the reason for all the hype is that this show is from these people. It's the first real Trigger show. I still haven't talked about the history of this yet, which I did like early into the last podcast, so I might as well get into that now.
Okay.
So, for those who don't know, Kill La Kill is made by people who mostly used to belong to Gainax Studio. Gainax is one of the most famous anime studios of all time. They created Evangelion, which everyone fucking knows and probably has seen. They did Die Buster and Gunbuster. They did
the best animes of all time.
They did Furikuri, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt, His and Her
Dead
Circumstances.
Leaves.
They didn't do Dead Leaves. That's Production IG. But it is the same director.
Right.
That's the only thing he did that wasn't with Gainax, actually.
Oh, okay, my bad.
But in any case, Gainax did a shitload of shows that a lot of people know. They did even more that I didn't name. Some of them aren't as well known, but the point stands that they've done a lot of legendary shows. And Hiroyuki Imaishi is a guy who began as an animator, and he was already, like, really famous as an animator. Like, he's considered one of the greatest living animators of our time. And he's known for this style that's, like, just really... I mean, Kill La Kill, like, that is his style. If you've watched the show, everything about his animation style is in here. But you can see his style anytime it pops up in any other show. Like, he did some scenes from, like, Lupin the Third movies. He did stuff in, like, a lot of the Gainax shows. His scenes from FLCL or Furikuri. People keep getting mad at me for calling it FLCL. So
I call it that. It doesn't matter. Either one's appropriate.
It's always written that way, and that's how I'm gonna read it in my head. But he most famously did the scenes from episode 5 of Furikuri, where it's like these really intense action scenes that are like
the bulletstorm scenes.
Yeah. And you can easily find, like, just search Hiroyuki Imaishi AMV on YouTube, and you'll get, like, a collection of just highlight reels of his work, you know. But he began as a director with first he did Dead Leaves, which was with Production IG, and then he did Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann with Gainax, and then shortly thereafter he did Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. And with both of those shows, he kind of brought in, like, shitloads of people. Like, Imaishi's the kind of guy who well, Gainax in general does this. They pull a lot of influence and bring in talent from a lot of places to work on their shows. So there's always like all these great animators, all these like great episode directors and writers and stuff that will collaborate on their projects. And especially with Panty and Stocking, like the reason each episode feels so different is because there'd be like a whole different team working on it. Like,
yeah, that's one of the things I loved about that show.
Yeah, that's what Imaishi did, was like deliberately bring in like visionary directors and stuff who would put their own unique spin on the concept of Panty and Stocking. And that's why
remember that Transformers episode? Holy
yes.
shit.
And probably some people who actually worked on Transformers probably worked on that.
Yeah, I bet they did.
Like the guy like Imaishi, his biggest influence is a guy named something Kanata. And Kanata, he's dead now, I believe, but he was like the biggest legendary animator when it came to mecha shows, and he did like the old Transformers like opening themes and stuff like that, which were like these super, like the only really great looking parts of Transformers kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I mean, Transformers has a lot of like legendary anime people like contributed in some fashion to it, even though it's not like fully a Japanese show. But and most of it looks
man,
like
until
shit.
right now, I always thought Transformers was strictly American. Are you telling me it's not?
No, it's not.
Holy shit!
But
this is crazy. Okay,
but in any case,
let's move on.
you know, Imaishi would definitely have been influenced by stuff like Transformers, and that's why it's cool to see it in Panty and Stocking. Well, anyway, what happened with Gainax is that they've kind of been falling apart over the years. And there was a definitive point around when Panty and Stocking was coming out that they started doing more adaptations. They did Medaka Box, which was a manga adaptation. It wasn't really imaginative. They did Dentalian no Shoka, which was kind of experimental. It was like if you took an adaptation of like a light novel and gave it a little bit of the Panty and Stocking, like every episode is different effect, but not enough to make it stand out. And that's how that show was. And then there was like Machine Priestess or something like that, like a girl with the machine gun show. They did a bunch of these little shows.
Gunslinger Girl? I don't
Shikabane Hime, that's what it was called. Like, But anyway, they did a bunch of these shows, and all of them were kind of mediocre and not really Gainaxy, you know. And it started to feel like the studio was going downhill. And then Hiroyuki Imaishi just outright left and made his own studio called Trigger. And it's apparent that he probably took a lot of Gainax staff with him, because that's usually what happens when someone migrates from a studio. So Trigger, they started off with like they did a little bit of work on the Black Rock Shooter anime. They did like they did the action scenes, which are the only watchable part of that show because the rest of it is trash.
Man, everyone always says that's trash. I've never seen it. I gotta do that sometime.
Okay, here's the thing.
I wonder how bad it is.
Black Rock Shooter has an OVA that's really good. That came out like a year beforehand. I enjoyed the shit out of the OVA. Then the show is like. Basically, imagine like a really moody, like 14-year-old girl writing a show.
Sasuke.
That's
got it.
No girl. It's not Sasuke.
Female Sasuke. Fair enough.
Right. It's definitely. I mean, I know some girls who liked it just because it reminded them of being a moody 14-year-old. Like, I
mean, what the fuck can you expect when you make an entire like franchise about a drawing one guy did one time?
Right, but that's like the original OVA really felt like it was just like as much as you could get out of that, and then the TV show's like, okay, let's make a whole story out of this, and it's awful. And
that just sounds like a mistake.
For the record, originally Black Rock Shooter, when he planned it out, it was actually a story. Like these character designs were made for him to do something with, but it was like he wasn't really a writer kind of thing, you know?
Yeah,
but in any case, none of that's really important. Black Rock Shooter's a terrible show. But it has action scenes that feel, you know, kind of Imaishi-ish. And then they've done Inferno Cop, which is hilarious.
The greatest show of all time. Yep. Oh, have you watched it since we last talked?
I think I watched an episode of it and was like, yep.
Okay, you get a good idea
exactly
for it after
what you
one.
said it was.
Yeah.
But it's a fun little, like, barely animated, like, just, I think it's a net series. Like, it's just something they released online. Yeah. And then they did...
Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, Little Witch Academia, which was a Kickstarter-funded project, and it was part of something called the Young Animators Project, which is interesting because it's basically like this like group was basically giving money to different studios to like put some of their like young talent who or not like it's like young in quotation marks because a lot of them are like people who have been around for a while, but it's like their first like big directing debut kind of thing.
Right.
But this was considered part of the Young Animators Project, and they did a Kickstarter to fund it, and it was really successful, and it was fucking awesome. Everyone loved it, and so they've just did a Kickstarter for episode 2, like I think at the end of last year, and that that's right. Way I think exceeded its goals because everyone loved episode 1. So looking forward to episode 2 of that. I remember, dude. Oh man, it was the most disappointing moment ever for me when I watched Little Witch Academia because I didn't know it was an OVA.
Oh, and yeah.
I had been out of anime for a while because I was into Pony, like, hardcore. So I was like, all I've been doing is working on my channel and stuff like that, and I'd been a couple seasons behind, and I see the first episode, and I'm like, dude, I have not been this hyped for a new show, like, ever. And I go online, and people are like, yeah, man, it's only one episode. And I was just...
That's fucking brutal.
It crushed me, man. But I'm excited.
That's like when I started reading Berserk and Berserk's like my favorite manga of all time. And you get to the fucking boat part, and you're like, oh, cool. Okay, I got to the end. That's okay. I can wait for the next chapter. It comes out, like every month? Right. No! They've been on that boat for 8 years. Okay, you know what? Let's not talk about it. No need to get into it. Let's move on.
Dude, I could go on for a while about the creator of Berserk and why he's hilarious.
Fucking piece of shit. But no, he's a great man. I respect him. He just needs to stop playing Idolmaster and fucking draw.
I'm glad you know about that.
Yeah, of course I do.
That's my favorite story ever. Anyway, he took him, just for our audience's sake, this manga author who wrote one of the grittiest fantasy series of all time took a 3-month break from writing Berserk to play Idolmaster. Because
I gotta respect that.
Because apparently it takes 3 months to beat Idolmaster. Like, it literally does.
What a fucking piece of shit. God damn it.
And he's like a huge Nico Doga addict, too.
Yeah. But he's a huge fucking weeb.
Leaving him aside, getting back to Trigger, Kill La Kill is their debut big show. It's their first full-length show. It's got all their production power. They had a killer PR job because everyone knew about the show before everyone it came out. Yeah. Even people who didn't know why it mattered knew about the show and were excited about it.
All they had to do was show Ryuko's image, and everyone was like, damn, I want to watch this shit.
Great character design, right. And just the visual aesthetic of the show is so strong that, it immediately grabs you. Great early episodes. And just altogether, I completely understand why this show has the hype it does, and I don't think it's undeserving. Just because to me, when a show can be like top level popcorn entertainment, then that's like what matters the most to hitting a wide audience. Like if you can hit a lot of people and even the smart people kind of like it. People who don't really engage on a deep level enjoy it, and people who do engage on a deep level think it's pretty good, then you've done something very right,
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you watch, like, Attack on Titan is totally overhyped, where,
well, that's true.
Everyone talks about how fucking great it is, and I watch it, and I'm like, this is the most mind-numbingly boring.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. That show is good. It's just overhyped. I mean, everyone loves it. I hate so Attack of course it's not as good. Oh, you're a faggot. It's got a great premise. It sucks you in so hard for the first 3 episodes. That's fine. Okay, you're absolutely right, but that premise is fucking great. And maybe the characters are all shit. Maybe that's true. I'm just saying that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is guys fighting Titans.
I watched 5 episodes of Attack on Titan, and every single episode, the dialogue could have been replaced with the dialogue from every other episode. All of it was just, Titans killed my family. We gotta kill the Titans. It's so terrifying. Oh, everyone's dying.
Okay, you're totally right, but
this isn't an Attack on Titan podcast, though.
You're right. Okay, all right. We won't get into
tackle that at a later date. I think.
Let's do that.
And everyone knows I hate Titan because people ask me all the time about my opinion of Titan, and every time I'm like, or they ask me to do an analysis of it, and I'm like, I'm not going to because I hate it. I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, you piece of shit.
Same goes for Sword Art Online.
More about this now.
I fucking hate Sword Art Online. So
I haven't watched it, but I've heard it's shitty.
That's why we're doing Kill La Kill, because
we like that.
Because out of the 3 shows that everyone begs me to analyze, at least one of them I actually like. So
yes, that's good.
Man, returning to it, there's a lot of characters.
What the fuck were we talking about?
There's a lot of characters in this show who, when you're watching the show, they seem to be important. And then they never really do anything, and they completely go by the wayside. Do you remember? And I'm looking at my anime listing of characters right now, so that's why I've been able to do all the names.
Try me.
Do you remember the character Kinagase Sumugu?
Sumugu was that was Satsuki's hairdresser, the anthropomorphic bear. who I dearly loved and was a relevant character through the entire episode, right?
No,
right?
Tsumugu was the guy who shows up in episode 5 and has a totally badass episode.
That was my favorite episode of the whole show right there, probably.
And does nothing throughout the entire rest of the show.
He basically does nothing,
He did nothing.
He, is a nudist with those other guys.
No one in Nudist Beach. No one did anything ultimately relevant.
Oh, the ultimate sin was, episode, I don't know, 12 or 13, where, they've got that, fiber thread bullet, and they set it up like they're gonna do something with that. And then nothing fucking comes of that bullet or of the entire group for the rest of the fucking series.
They were really set up to be this important other faction, and they were useless, because in the end, it was always Satsuki who was gonna have her rebel force, and they were way the fuck better. So Nudist Beach
much better
was worthless. They the two characters, the guy with the guns is set up in a cool way, but he quickly becomes overpowered, and there's a moment where it seems like he's going to turn around, because after the big fight where they don't use the bullet, he says, I couldn't keep up with those two girls at all. Yep. I need to go train.
So he's going to go train. Yeah.
And he fucking sucks shit through the whole rest
nothing
of the show.
Happens. Yeah.
I was like, great training there, buddy. You did so much with that.
At least they were realistic about it.
But he should have done something. I don't understand why he's
You're absolutely
in the show
right. From a characterization point of view, they fucked up a lot, including this guy.
And Mikisugi, the guy who in the first 3 episodes is hilarious because he keeps undressing himself and doing sexy poses. And then he spends the rest of the show with purple nipples and no relevant dialogue, except to be exposition.
Yeah, he's got some exposition about, the nature of life fibers, but anyone could have done that. I don't know.
What was the point of setting up Kinagase's sister? Where they were talking.
Oh, dude, that's a fucking sin right there. The whole sister thing that they don't go into at all.
No.
To give him a little bit of
character
relevance.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit of character that they just never flesh out anymore. That was a fucking disgrace right there.
The farthest it goes is to be his motivation to be who he is, but he never. Yeah. There's no payoff to it. The whole Nudist Beach has no payoff. It's really lame and stupid, and they could have been absent, and you wouldn't have noticed. It wouldn't make a difference.
They're just there to be clothes versus naked. We gotta have that.
Then we have, I guess we should talk about Senketsu.
Oh yeah, no, we should. You know what? You said before that Ryuko didn't really have a a stance the way Satsuki did. She did in the one respect, and that was her acceptance of Senketsu.
I thought their relationship was super well done.
Yeah, me too. I really liked them. I found Senketsu a charming guy. I really liked him.
Yeah, he has a cool voice. I like how
his voice is great.
They narrowly managed to make it would have been so easy to if he had made perverted jokes all the time, it would have got old, or if he had been anything other than exactly what he is, he would have got old. But he was just the fact that he's always deadpan and straight-faced. But then sometimes comic stuff happens to him, but it's never too extreme. I thought he was
he gets pleasure from being ironed.
Right, that was the best. I love that.
Yeah, no, they did the right thing with him, keeping him that way.
And he always feels like clothes. All of his motivations are relevant to being clothes.
Yeah,
that's true. He wants to be worn. That's literally his ambition. Is I want you to wear me. So yeah, that's how you do a character like that. If you're gonna do a non-human character and have if you're gonna animate clothing, make them clothing. Don't make them just a person who happens to be clothes.
You're right. They didn't just that. You said it best right there. That's
I've never thought about that until now. So
yeah, me neither. It's a good observation though. It's fucking good.
That's
way to go, Senketsu.
That's the thing. What makes me like Kill la Kill is that there's so much in it that you can never just write it off. You can't ever be but it's just a dumb show. It's it is dumb, but there's so much going on where even if it's not clean,
even if a lot of it doesn't get developed enough, there's going to be a bunch of other stuff that does.
Definitely. It's a show where I'd say the positives outweigh the negatives by a long shot.
Oh, for sure. No doubt.
I don't... If someone told me, Kill la Kill is my favorite show, and the first thought I'd have is, you might not have seen that much anime. But if they have seen a lot of
fucking plebes.
But if they have, and if I talk to someone who said Kill la Kill is my favorite show and I've seen a lot of anime, I don't think I'd distrust it, because there's enough in the show that I could see someone getting really into You know, even if it's not all perfectly clean, even if not everything about it is great, there's so much happening that I could easily see this being someone's favorite show, even if they have seen a lot.
Anyone who says that a super recent show is their favorite anime of all time, I think should probably calm down a little bit. But let's assume it was the future.
Right.
You're right. I see your point. It's a good show.
Into the future, someone could. Yeah, I definitely think that there's always a recency bias. Is what what Ghost Lightning always called it. Was the recency bias is anything you've just seen is going to have a stronger emotional resonance than things you watched before.
Well, frankly, I'd counter that with the nostalgia bias. I think that's probably even more powerful. That's a big one too,
definitely. Yeah. They're both very powerful things, but for me, like, I've sort of embraced the recency bias because I don't really feel nostalgia that much. Like, I don't typically everything in my past. Everything in my past is worse than everything now for me. Like
that's fucking awesome.
I don't have any like gold because I'm like every year has been better than the last for me. So like I'm the happiest I've ever been right now. So looking back, I don't have like a happy time that like watching this show is going to remind me of back when everything was good because everything was worse back then, you know? So for me, it's like my favorite.
Well, that's an interesting perspective.
Right. Like I won't rate, like I started rating shows on my anime list just because I wanted to have ratings there for the hell of it. I hadn't been doing it for years, but I won't rate anything that I haven't seen in like the last 6 months because to me it's not the same.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
fair.
Feel different about it, you know, if I watch it again. So
well, you know, I don't really get. I mean, I am totally a sucker for nostalgia, especially when it comes to anime. For other things like music, I find the recency bias is more applicable in. But whatever, it's neither here nor there.
Right. Sorry, I had to take a sip of tea. That's what I drink now, by the way.
Tea is very good for your voice when you're doing long conversations.
Oh, that's good to know. It's very
true,
helpful,
especially with honey. Mm-hmm.
Mine does have honey in it, I think.
You are a fucking tea genius.
Actually, I think it just has ginseng. Anyway, that is totally besides the point.
Okay, other characters, right? Should we? How about Ragyou?
Ragyou, yeah, she's a good villain. I think she does exactly.
She plays her part.
She has the scene with Satsuki, the whole like rape scene makes her feel really threatening and creepy.
Fucking best, yeah.
And she does a good job of keeping herself feeling creepy, you know. But
for sure.
I wouldn't say that she's like. She's not nearly as memorable as like let's say Lord Genome.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, she's another one of those characters I think with like the Bioshock syndrome that like has these like things about her that are just window dressings that don't really define her.
Because like Gurren Lagann, and I realized that like the first time we did
not Lord Genome though, he's the real deal.
Right, the first time we did this podcast, I sort of had I sort of said, well, like my impression of Gurren Lagann was that I loved it so much because it resonated with me so much as like a 17-year-old, and then you know years down the line, it didn't have that kind of appeal. But the thing about Gurren Lagann is that I actually think if I watched it now, I'd love it all over again because it does have strong themes. Because I've always thought that the anti-spirals and Lord Genome were fascinating concepts.
They are fascinating.
And this show has something similar, but not nearly as potent. Like, whereas the anti-spirals, the whole thing, they were trying to protect humanity by keeping them, or Lord Genome especially, was trying to protect humanity by keeping them down. Because it turned out that the whole reason for his reign was, you know, if we rise up, they're going to kill us. And in this show, it was like, there's this, you know, there's once again like a universally powerful being that's trying to take over humanity.
Yep.
Why did she want to hand humanity over to them?
Because she was like born into the family that's traditionally, you know, like assigned to taking care of this thing for some reason.
She's just crazy and evil.
Her family's been crazy and evil, and so is she. I mean, that's as much explanation as we get.
So definitely not as interesting of a villain, but she felt threatening in the context of the show. Her partner, the little
brown chick.
Yeah, the brown girl. She never got to do anything. Cool. She was cool, but she never got to do anything. Harime Nui ends up being disappointing in the end because even though you hate her, she doesn't get to get killed or anything.
She gets turned into like the big world tree or whatever, and like the best you get is like that thing like gets destroyed. You don't get to see her like fucking die. Like I felt like what the writers had forgotten to do
was give them just one character who really wanted to kill her other than the main two, like Ryuko and Satsuki. Because
what do you mean?
Like, okay, in any other show, Ryuko and Satsuki would have gone off to fight the big bad, and then someone else would have gone and killed her, like Harime Nui.
Yeah.
But the one with the most incentive to kill Nui was Ryuko. So, like, combining her with killing the big bad kind of made sense, because, like, Ryuko's gonna kill them both, so you might as well put them together.
But it is a bit anticlimactic that way.
And that's the problem, is that they gave Ryuko the best reason to kill her, so even though everyone else fights her...
I see.
Because I had that impression where, like, the main four fighter, and, even though the one guy's like, oh, I'm gonna get revenge for when you beat me up before, that's not nearly as strong of a motivation as Ryuko has.
They should have done something like... Because, a lot of people complained that Satsuki got overly depowered at the end of the show, that, like, it was all about Ryuko, and Satsuki just kind of became a shit at the end, which I disagree with. But maybe what they could have done to make it a little more potent, like you said, is maybe give Satsuki, who, like Satsuki's dad was Ishin Matoi.
Right.
And maybe she could figure that out and then have this moment of like, oh shit, you killed my dad, I'll take care of Nui, and then they can have their cool battle while,
Honestly,
Ryuko fights Ragyou.
No, what I would have liked, even more than that, and was surprised that didn't happen, was I just thought that fucking Ryuko would fight Harime Nui and Satsuki would fight her mom, and it like
that would have been
it would have made
yeah.
perfect sense. All they had to do was find some reason to make Harime Nui become the all-powerful one.
Which there are plenty of ways they could have done that.
Right, because she even
the fucking life fibers, whatever.
It's hinted at that she was kind of had an usurping streak anyway. Where she thought of herself
but they'd
as
never
more
go
badass.
Anywhere with that.
All it would have taken was in those last episodes, instead of having her become the ultimate dress, have her become the bigger villain, because Nui killed Ryuko's father, and she, like, directly wants to kill her.
And she fucking loved every second of it.
Right, and Satsuki has, I know that in the end, Ryuko, it turns out that fucking... what's her name? Ragyou was her mom as well, but Satsuki has like the deep-seated rage towards her over all these years.
Yeah,
just would have felt more climactic if they'd switched opponents, I think.
You're absolutely right, man. That's true. That's true.
It's one of those odd decisions that you look at the show and go, like, they must have thought of it, and maybe they just didn't want it to be that way. Like, but you can... from our perspective, it's like, oh, but why not?
Yeah, it's pretty. It makes sense to me. Yeah, I think that could have been handled a little better. That whole final battle was a little. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, there's something else. There's a huge tangent I went on in the original video. That
well, there was. Yeah. Okay, so go on.
Right. I was gonna talk about how, to me, the most interesting influence that I saw on this show was Go Nagai.
Oh, yes, Devilman.
Yes, man. Go Nagai, who created...
Hey, since talking about that, I went and read some of Devilman.
Oh, really? How'd you enjoy that?
I thought it was pretty good.
You gotta...
It was creepy, but it was pretty good.
How much of it did you read?
Just a couple chapters. Kind of randomly, and I read the very end. The end is fucking weird, man. The end is the weirdest fucking shit I've ever read in my life.
And not the rest of it?
Because I don't know. I just fucking felt like it.
Devilman is like 5 volumes, and it's this crazy-ass escalation of, like, it starts off... just being like he's fighting monsters and shit, and then the monsters
spoiler alert, by the way,
get more powerful, and then it turns into the fucking apocalypse. And the last
everyone's
volume,
fucking dead,
dude. The last volume has some of the freakiest imagery, like when the
girlfriend getting her head chopped off. What the fuck was that?
One of the most disturbing images.
You don't do that shit in manga, man. This guy is a fucking trendsetter. This guy's
manga.
Crazy.
Devilman is a shonen manga.
Holy
Go
shit.
Go Nagai was known for... He was the first guy to ever put a pilot inside of a giant robot, which he did with Mazinger Z.
Yep.
He pretty much invented magical girls with... what's her name? Cutie Honey. And Devilman was like is considered like his biggest masterwork, like his the most high quality work he's done. And it's still like batshit insane, but all of his work is very hyper energetic, very intense, insane, and his style is known for everyone looks demonic, even the main characters, even if you're a good guy, they always have this like creepy evil face and just like harsh eyes and everything. And Kill La Kill borrows the visual style of Go Nagai's work a lot, especially the Devilman and Mazinger Z visuals. And and
that great thing that you talked about how the guys appear much larger than they actually are.
Yes, the scale
I love that
thing. where one of the coolest things to me in the early episodes of Kill La Kill was that characters change in like visual size a lot. And the biggest moment that it happens is in episodes 2 and 3, both of them have a moment where Satsuki just grows. Like, she's giving a speech and she physically keeps growing because it's showing you how much more, presence she has. And this
fucking awesome.
This is like something that dates back to like ancient art, where if you look, because I took a class on this shit, which is why I know all this, but I once wrote about it in comparison to Shin Mazinger, where in which has a lot of see, that's the thing. Shin Mazinger is influenced by Greek culture. Like, Zeus is Mazinger. Like, the robot itself is Zeus. And so it has all this Greek culture stuff. Well, back then, then the way they did art was that, like, the gods were just drawn as physically taller than everyone else, or even kings or mighty warriors. They would be drawn as, like, 3 times the size of normal humans in the artwork, And Mazinger did that. It had, like, there's parts where someone would be giving a speech and they just are bigger, for the duration of that
interesting
speech. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it felt to me when I watched Mazinger like, oh, I wonder if this is like actually referencing Greek art. And then Kill La Kill sort of borrows all this Go Nagai stuff, and then they also have that thing where, characters are bigger. Gamagori's
separate though.
Changes size constantly. For no really apparent reason. But sometimes it is when he's giving a speech. He's like physically 20 feet tall.
Oh, it's fucking great. That's why he's the best.
Gamagori
and then
the
next scene he'll be he fucking is. And then that has this fantastic climax for that size element with the final battle of all throughout the series. People have been looming over Ryuko and talking down to her, and then the very end, she has her moment. The last episode,
she grows. She gives a speech. She grows to be the biggest person on screen, and I don't think they ever did it with her before that.
No,
like, throughout the
sure
show, lots of characters grow, and she never does until that moment. And then they have the final battle where they're both like equally sized in space,
Yeah.
And just have this fucking giant throwdown. So that's the kind of visual thing that very rarely appears in any kind of art like nowadays. But to see it happen and have that purpose to it, I was like, oh man, that's so cool. And
it was pretty brilliant.
And the fact that it also feels like it's referencing Go Nagai when everything else in the show looks like a Go Nagai work.
Yeah.
And just the general feeling, like I don't think they were directly referencing Go Nagai with this show, but I think they were deliberately throwing back to his style because his stuff was super violent, had lots of nudity. There was always characters losing their clothes every episode. In his stuff, characters would just be like, there's constant like tentacles. Like he was one of the first to have like the tentacle rape kind of thing, and just lots of nudity and violence and shit. And this show has all that, and it feels like it was going, hey, remember back in the day when shows were just intense as shit? And how another part was all the gangsters, like, because every time they went to a different school, there'd be like a gang of kids they'd fight. And he had that in Mazinger. Then every school has a gang, and all the gang leaders would meet up and like have a summit.
Man, I fucking love that shit every time. It gets me.
It's great. I love gangster characters in anime because they've had so much time to perfect them and make them just this awesome trope.
Yeah.
But
and like,
hold on, that was my speech. Okay. You also have a speech about how much you love the episodes where they go to the other prefectures.
Yes, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Okay. What episode was that? Like episode 14?
Somewhere around
15?
there. It's in the mid.
I think it was episode 14. Okay. Episode 14 or thereabouts. They go on their, what do they call it? Like cross country school trip battle fucking whatever it is. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite things. I mean, I know I've said like 5 episodes are my favorite episode, but that's my favorite episode right there with when they go to like Kansai, Hokkaido, I don't know these fucking places, but every place they go to and conquer has like, I mean, I know it's for if you don't live in Japan, I'm sure it feels like a really, if you were Japanese, you'd realize this is like a dumbed down stereotypical version, but it still has that appeal of like having like the quintessential thing representing that region as as like the way that they do battle, or
Right.
like their
weaponry.
It's like their elements, their weaponry or whatever it is. Like those guys with the steaks, where were they from? With the special meat, Kobe.
Yeah, Kobe
meat.
Beef, and they were fighting them.
They
with
used
Kobe
that as fucking body armor in Kobe, the students, which is fucking brilliant. And I mean, that culminates in my absolute favorite thing in the whole show, which is everything having to do with Takarada in Osaka. He fights with money, he flips money, he pays everyone with money, and also, as fucking badass as that motherfucker is, he also has like an interesting alternative perspective to Satsuki's method of control.
Right.
She controls with fear, and he specifically uses money to encourage people to work for him, which is a pretty fascinating thing, especially when Satsuki confronts him directly and, cuts everyone's heart.
Right.
I don't know how the fuck she did that, but she, like, instills fear into them, and then they realize that they can't, money isn't enough motivator for them to be willing to risk their lives, and so his whole money thing crumbles, and another reason why Satsuki's the fucking best. But, that whole thing, the whole thing about he's in Osaka, they're obsessed with money.
Right.
They've got the famous Osakan grannies like teaming up to fight the guys. The crabs, I don't know. There was a bunch of stuff like that. Everything about that was fucking brilliant. And if you understand Japanese culture a little bit, not that I'm a fucking expert, but like all those references were they were just fucking brilliant. They were so creative and interesting and funny the way they applied it. It was fucking brilliant, 10 out of 10. And Takarada was the best character. So for me, how could I fucking not love it?
I agree. I love puns, so I loved
yeah.
the pun nature of it. Those episodes for me, like when I first saw them, I was like, why? Just because I felt like this is the time where the plot should be happening, and we're still fucking around,
Oh, it was fucking great.
Ultimately, those aren't the episodes I would cut, though. If I was trying to shorten down the show, the main episodes I'd cut would be the fight with the big four.
The fight with the four guys. Yeah. Those were complete waste of time. Complete.
Definitely. I mean, they established their character arcs, but it could have been done any other way earlier in the show.
Yeah, Like, it really killed me, that driving episode with Gamagori, and then the next episode is a fight with him, and we don't learn anything new about him.
Right.
That right there was the worst part of the whole show for me. Like, that dearth of content. Am I using that right?
Yeah.
The lack of content. Yeah.
Definitely.
Fucking
it could have...
shitty.
This show, the funny thing about it is that I've said that it's, it's very dense with things happening, but it should have been more dense with the right things happening, I guess is a way to put it. Like, there's certain things that could have been taken out and things that could have been put in, and it would have been altogether a more solid project. But at the same time, I don't feel like this show gives a shit about that. It was exactly what it wanted to be,
Well, that's true.
It's possible that maybe they have regrets.
You can
that
always
would come
improve
out later,
something, but Yeah.
I think for the most part they did what they wanted to do, and that's always admirable to see.
For sure.
And it's definitely a breath of fresh air if you are someone who watches a lot of anime and is disappointed because anime, there's not a lot of original shows out anymore.
Yeah.
And
hey kids, tired of the new KyoAni series? Come watch fucking Kill la Kill.
Okay, Kyoto Animation, everything they do is fantastic, so that's not a good...
Oh, listen to this, guys. Listen to him and laugh.
What the fuck do you have against Kyoto Animation? They're like the highest
I have nothing.
studio.
I have fucking nothing against Kyoto. I love Nichijou. I love Lucky Star. I think they're fucking great.
They're fantastic. Well, see, you opened up old wounds for me when you said that.
Just because right.
There used to be like this huge like Sunrise versus Kyoto Animation war. That was retarded as fuck, but I won't get into that. In any case, there are a lot of derivative shows, and I don't begrudge them as much as a lot of people do. I'm not as bad as like Hayao Miyazaki, who's like this totally curmudgeon-y old man about it, where he's like, modern anime is all shit. There's no original ideas anymore. Everyone's afraid to take risks. But he's not wrong. But I don't mind it as much. Like, I don't care that most of the shows are derivative pandering stuff. But definitely, when a show like Kill la Kill comes out, it is still a breath of fresh air.
It's appreciated,
especially now where there's even less original shows on TV than ever. And not all of them are good. Like, this season, we have, like, Captain Earth, which is a total disappointment. And so, like... which shouldn't be, because the people who make Captain Earth are, like, the people who've made shows like Kill la Kill. You know,
Yeah.
like another one I forgot to make this comparison that I did in the first podcast was that I thought Kill la Kill reminded me of Star Driver and Revolutionary Girl Utena, and those,
which I need to fucking watch.
Those two were written by the guy who's now writing Captain Earth, which is totally boring and like does not have any of his
disgraceful
style at all. It's so far it's been a case for me, and I dropped it after episode 4 because nothing was happening. And maybe it'll get better as it goes along, but so far for me, it's been a case of what the fuck happened here? You know, like, how do you get all these talented people, get such good-looking, like, it's a good-looking show, but there's no ideas in it at all. And, like...
Yeah, that's just they gotta produce something, I don't know.
I'd rather have an endless stream of Kill la Kills where they have a ton of ideas and none of it really goes anywhere than a show with no ideas, you know?
For sure.
I think that wraps up everything I have to say about this show.
I think I agree.
All right, well...
Oh, wait, one final statement. If you just didn't believe anything we said, and you think this show is shitty, and it's just fucking fan pandering because it's got all naked chicks, you just are not fucking looking close enough. There's got to be at least one person who was thinking that at this point, and now they've been corrected.
I mean,
okay.
Well, okay, I agree, but I also... I don't want to say that you should, like... Unlike you, I'm less the kind of guy who goes, "Oh, you're wrong," you know.
Oh, that's me.
Right, I don't do that at all. To me, if you don't like this show, I completely understand, and not just for the animation stuff, because I do know that there are some people who find it problematic from like a feminist standpoint, from stuff like that. And
it's female empowerment, you dumb faggots. Okay, sorry. Go on.
I completely get that. I get why they wouldn't like it, and I think that there's always more than one way to read the show. Like, you know. You choose to read it as empowerment. I choose to read it as I choose to read it as it can be empowering. Like, I choose to see it as I don't think it's innately empowering, but I think it can be taken that way very easily.
I mean, I just see it as empowering because it's got female characters who are just being characters.
And being
they're not
badass,
just, you know. Yeah, I mean, they're not like men in a woman's body.
I will definitely put up the argument, and I've been putting up this argument for a while, ever since the video game Skullgirls, because that game had a backlash against it for being, people called it sexist, and it's not at all sexist, because Skullgirls is a game with 9 female characters. A couple of them have like really huge tits, but if you actually look at the character sheets, they actually made a point to have every character have a different cup size. So, like, it goes, like, A, B, C, D.
Fun for everyone.
Double D, and E. But, which is, you know, I mean, there's obviously a slant of perversion there, where it's...
Hey, did you know that Zone-sama was one of the animators for that?
I did not, but...
He was? Yeah, famous hentai artist.
Right, I mean, there's definitely a lot of sex appeal to the characters in Skullgirls.
Right,
but
as there should be.
There is a huge mistake to call it sexist because it has sex appeal. Because that's implying that somehow women being sexy is offensive. I don't understand the standpoint. And Kill la Kill, it has things in it that I could easily see people construing as problematic, not just because the characters are sexy, but because some kind of weird fucked up shit happens. Like there's some rapey moments that I don't know if they're completely reconciled. There's some moments where the show said, like in the last episode, where it's like, you know, where he's telling her you should dress like a girl and like wear a pretty dress that make me jealous. But at the same time, there's always a disconnect between when people want a show to be making a statement and when a show is talking about its characters. I think that's an important distinction to make.
Right.
Is the show making a statement that women should dress pretty, or is it making a statement that that's what Ryuko wants? You know, is it being...
Or Senketsu in this case.
Right. Yeah, either one. I mean, Ryuko does say she's going to put on something that's going to make him jealous, you know.
Oh, yeah, right,
so
that's true.
Is it a character moment, or is it a message? And I think that is something that is not clear-cut and should never be put into a box. Like, if you were to say this show has problematic messages because of this, I would say maybe it's a character moment. It's sort of like if you have a character in a show who's a dedicated housewife, and she believes that, you know, like, she believes in traditional femininity. If just by having that character does not mean the show is telling you that this is what a woman should be.
I think a lot of people do not understand that point you just made, Digi.
Right, and I think that's the difference. It's not that the show is making problematic messages. It's that it's telling this kind of story. Like, this is the story it's telling. And, whether or not you find that entertaining is one thing, but whether or not it's offensive...
Just because you write something down does not mean you're condoning it.
Right, and it does not mean that the show is telling you, this is how it should be, this is what women are, this is how women act, or something like that. So to me, to pigeonhole it so easily and say it has a problematic message strikes me as inauthentic. But I understand that a lot of feminist argument is not about... logic, it's about thinking that most people are stupid, basically. Because anytime that I've made an argument for a work that other people say, this is offensive because some people could take it as real, I say, that's not a problem with the work, that's a problem with the people who could take it as real.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
Personal responsibility, people.
Right, that's a problem where some people have disturbed minds and they need help. But that has nothing to do with the work, and that has nothing to do with me. Because to me, if I can enjoy a work like that and still have opinions that are completely different from the work, then that means there's nothing wrong with the work. It's it's just that some people are going to take it the wrong way or use it to support stupid arguments. It's kind of like when people say, well, Hitler liked lemons, so if you like lemons, you're like Hitler.
Hey, Ryuko likes lemons too. She's a fucking Nazi. That's
right.
Bullshit.
So that's the kind of stance I have on this show, where I am not saying that I don't think the show is problematic in any way for everyone. I'm not saying, oh, you suck for not liking the show, because whatever, it's your opinion, you're gonna have your feelings. If this show triggers something for you, I understand that, because and I love that the show is by a studio called Trigger. But,
good one.
There is, I am I don't want to reveal this, because I've always been careful about revealing my fears to the internet, because I feel like someone's going to turn it around on me.
Hey,
but
think about it.
There's a certain thing I'm afraid of, and when it shows up in a show, I will stop watching. Not the whole show, not on a principle level. I just don't want to look.
Right.
So
But I'm sure that you understand that that's not the show's fault.
I don't blame the show at all. And I would never tell everyone in the world that they need to trigger warning everything that has that particular thing in it that I'm afraid of.
Exactly.
Because that's my problem. I'm afraid of it, I'm not saying it's I need to fix, because personally I'm not even interested in fixing it. I'm so terrified that I don't even give a fuck. I'm I'll just be afraid of this for the rest of my life. But but when I see it, I'm going to turn away. Or if I know it's in something, I might not, give it an easy look. Yeah, there is exactly one movie that I will not watch again just because of the presence of this.
Oh, give us a hint, Digi. What movie is it?
It would make it too easy if I said.
Okay, fair enough. Never mind.
But
well, Digi, that's a very well reasoned and a very kind way of saying that. However, my opinion is that if you don't like this show and you have these problems, then you're a huge fucking faggot and should probably kill yourself. But that's just my opinion.
Now, what I want to know is how many of the comments on this video are going to be people complaining about how often you use the word faggot.
Oh, well, I get that a lot on my videos.
Yes.
Well, it kind of stopped after a while because people expected that.
Right.
But, I should probably put a trigger warning at the beginning of this video. Trigger warning, if you're a faggot, video, don't watch this video.
That's the worst. No,
that's a good one.
I mean, I'm a huge Louis.
I'm just kidding,
I'm a
guys.
huge Louis C.K. fan. I love his stance on the word faggot.
On the word
faggot, where he explains how it doesn't mean to him, it's not a derogatory phrase to him. It's just a word that
I think of his exact thing when I say it a lot of the time. I'm totally with him. I do too. If I was going up to a gay guy who was sucking a dick, and he stopped to look at me and was all like, "Oh, your shoes don't match your shirt." I'd be like, "Hey, stop being a fucking faggot and suck that dick."
Right. The actual line is
totally respectful.
The actual line from the joke is, "People from Phoenix are Phoenicians."
Yeah, that's right.
But
he's fucking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I
mean, no disrespect to the gays. I love the gays.
I think that's what I'm trying to get across here is we don't mean to be disrespectful through the use of the word faggot. Neither of us thinks that a gay person is any worse than any other person. And
in fact,
me,
they're better than most.
My favorite my favorite reaction to anyone calling me a faggot is, why would that be an insult to me?
Yeah,
exactly. If anything, I'm like, okay, like some of my best friends are gay dudes and they're cooler than me, so if anything, this is a compliment, you know.
It's true. All the gay guys I know get laid way more than me.
Right.
And
all the gay guys I know hit on me and make me wish I was gay because it would be so much easier for me to get laid. But
yeah, right. So see, we mean no disrespect.
Right. I wish we had clarified this at the start of the video.
We could copy and paste this at the beginning.
But I don't want to. Anyway,
okay, fair
I
enough.
think we've wrapped up. That's about it. We're not even talking
so.
about Kill La Kill anymore, so...
I liked it. Good show.
Yes,
you should watch it.
Good show. I recommend it if you like I said, if you watch I recommend everyone watch episode 1, and
right.
if you don't enjoy it at all, stop watching the show because it's not going to change enough that you're going to like it later. But if it gets its hooks in you a little bit, but you're like, you know, oh, but I don't really, the lack of story bothers me, then watch the first 3 episodes, and if you're still not interested, then skip to episode 16 because the rest of the show is going to be exactly like that.
Yeah. Skip to episode 14, and then you get to see the rape scene and all that good stuff.
That's 15, but yeah.
15, okay, fair enough.
So that wraps up our Kill La Kill cast. See you next time.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.